Just going to start with a little karakia. Kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa pounamu te moana, kia tere te karohirohi, I mua I toa huarahi. So may peace be widespread, may the sea glisten like green stone, may the shimmer of light guide you on your way. Lovely little karakia to get us underway tonight. Tēnā koutou katoa, e mihi ana ki te maunga o Maukaturi, e mihi ana ki te awa o Rakahuri, ki te mana whenua nai tuahurire, tēnā koutou. No wera, no kotirana aku tipuna, he ōtautahi ahau e noho ana. Ko Matt toko ingoa, no reira tēnā koutou katoa, and a big welcome to you all to this brilliant session tonight with our fabulous panel of community gardeners and community activists. I'm really excited to be emceeing tonight. My name's Matt. I'm currently the Sustainability Advisor at the University of Canterbury's I'm working in the Sustainability Office, and I say currently, but I've been there for ages. Now, it seems, since 2009. But before that, I worked for a cool organisation called the Organic Garden City Trust back in 1999, which was the umbrella for lots of great project groups. And one of them was called the Community and Home Gardens Group, which later became the Christchurch Community Gardens Association, and then later still the Canterbury Community Gardens Association. So it's really, really nice to be here at a CCGA event. And yeah, and I'm really, really excited to hear more about what's happening across the city, because it's so dynamic. There's so many different things happening, and it seems to change year on year. One other thing that I just wanted to mention too is that this year, 2022, is the 20th birthday of a community garden at the university. So it used to be called Ōtautahi Community Garden, but a few years ago it was gifted a new name from Ngāi Tuahuriri. So the new name is Tinaki o Waiutuutu, or sometimes Waiutuutu Community Garden, but you know, same great place, just a new name. And so there will be a party. And you know, try to make sure you all get invites. So look out for that. It'll probably be sometime in the spring. But yeah, 20 years is so nice. And I love that we can celebrate community gardens, and that's really what this panel tonight is all about, isn't it? Celebrating community gardens. So this panel is called From the Roots Up, Learning Through Community Gardening. And we'll be exploring some of the equitable and diverse learning opportunities that are offered through community gardens and school gardens and other garden projects of that ilk throughout Ōtautahi Christchurch. And we'll be diving into some of the awesome projects happening in the space that people can get involved in. This event is brought to you by the Canterbury Community Gardens Association, yes, and is part of the Ōtautahi Learning Days Festival Week, which is happening right now across Ōtautahi Christchurch and online. The festival is about celebrating all of the wonderful learning opportunities available and exploring what our awesome educators are doing to make learning more accessible and more equitable. And I'm going to intro our panelists now, because it's really about them. Just to say that our thoughts are with Tilia Mihabi and Sue Ellen Sanderlands, who were going to be on our panel tonight, but both of them needed to pull out because they're not feeling too well. So, which is a great shame that they couldn't make it. But also, on the other hand, we still have 4 amazing panelists. So I was thinking, how are we going to squeeze all of this in? So anyway, now we've got a little bit more time. So the first panelist that I want to introduce is the fabulous and sensational Chessa Crow. Hi. I met Chessa some years ago through a school gardening hui that was run by the Food Resilience Network. Actually, I was coordinating it. Now I've gone off and Chessa's coordinating them. So isn't that great? It's perfect. Chessa is doing a much better job than me though, because she's actually a former primary school teacher and so knows something about this. She's now school garden support coordinator for Equitable Canterbury, and is a huge advocate for gardening education in schools and having garden programs as part of the educational system. And that means planting, it means growing food, and it means cooking and preparing food as well. She ran a school garden for over a decade and understands the highs and the lows. Yeah, there's both, isn't there? The highs and the lows, the obstacles and also the wins of doing that work. And she loves seeing all the schools and teachers in Christchurch and surrounds doing the mahi to bring garden education to the students. And you're doing a great job, Chessa. The next cool panelist that we have tonight is Zane Crofts, the inimitable Zane Crofts, a great inspiration. Zane has worked on a range of projects in the space. He ran a market garden from his front yard, worked on a local Wainoni project, setting up a community garden, and now has his own roadside community garden, Edible Streets, which is a replicable model for others in the community to share. So I'm sure we'll hear more about that this evening. He does this alongside working as a full-time arborist apprentice and volunteering at Smith Street Urban Farm, helping to set up a community nursery system, or community nursery systems. And Zane is passionate about living in a connected community with thriving biodiversity, creating this through education on growing food and building commons like kitchens, nurseries, and tool libraries. So pretty amazing vision there. And Zane, you know, you're a great character. You wear your heart on your sleeve, and people know that and respond to that. And I think you're awesome. Great to have you on this panel. Also, an amazing inspiration, Roz Rolls. Hi, Roz. Roz is a permaculture teacher, learner, designer, and practitioner with a background in horticultural science and early childhood education. And currently Roz is working as kaitiaki for Ōtautahi Orchard, a project of Equitable Canterbury, a wonderful food forest in the centre of the city. And Roz also works alongside and supports Chessa in the work of the Gardening in Schools program run by Equitable Canterbury, and also the Food Resilience Network activation, things that are all dear to my heart. Roz is also kaitiaki of the Sumner Food Forest, a tutor for Canterbury Permaculture Institute, and chairperson of the Cook Island-based organisation Kia Tairia, the last bit there standing for working towards awareness of environmental responsibility and individual action, exclamation mark. Beautiful. And last but not least, the very excellent Helen Tullett, who I met years ago at the university, and it was an absolute no-brainer when the opportunity came up to employ Helen in the sustainability office, where we had the privilege of Helen's enthusiasm and inspiration and intelligence until the event of the Christchurch earthquakes, which affected, or anyway, obviously affected us all. So following that period, Helen saw the need to focus on local food networks and started a community-supported agriculture program, and has since worked as an organic market gardener for 10 years in New Zealand and Quebec. Helen's passionate about, Quebec. Helen is passionate about reconnecting people to, and I love this, the sanctuary of the garden. Oh, the sanctuary of the garden. Her current role as Littleton Community Carbon Coach weaves in food, transport, energy, water, waste, and community resilience. Yeah, what a wonderful role, the community carbon coach. And I'm not sure, but it seems like the kind of role that maybe is needed across many different communities. And wow, isn't Littleton, I was going to say lucky, but what I really mean is visionary and proactive about getting something like that off the ground. So I hope that you're sort of piloting something that that others will be able to benefit from later. So the way that this is going to work is that we've got 3 pre-written questions, which I'm going to put to each of the panelists. As I said, if you feel like you would like to ask another question or make a comment as people are talking, please do use the chat function at the bottom. But so without further ado, why don't I just jump straight into that first question, which I'm going to put to Roz to start with. And this is actually, I'll just tell the panelists now because we didn't talk about it before, but I'm going to mix it around a little bit. But for the first one, just so that you know, well, we're starting with Roz and then we'll see what happens after that, okay? The first question is, what are some of the learning opportunities provided through your gardening space? And what are some of the innovative opportunities for the future that you see? So Roz, what are some of the learning opportunities provided through your gardening space and possibilities for the future? Feel free to, talk regarding either Ōtākaro Orchard or Sumner.
Yeah.
Over to you. Kia ora.
Oh, kia ora. Thank you, Ngā mihi. Kia ora, ko Roz, tukunga. So I look after 2 food forests, Sumner Food Forest and Ōtākaro Orchard, and both of those food forests have been designed on permaculture principles. And I don't know if people know what permaculture is here, if everyone knows, but just a quick thing about permaculture. It's a design philosophy, and 3 ethics are at its core: care for the earth, care for people, and future care. And it's really a holistic way of looking at things in whole systems. And in permaculture, there are 12 different principles. And some of the most important principles that were looked at when designing a food forest are things like use and value diversity, integrate rather than segregate, produce no waste, observe and interact. And so in permaculture, we're observing natural systems and seeing how they're working and recreating natural systems. So in the case of a food forest, we're trying to recreate a natural forest system and using the 7 different layers of a canopy of a forest system, from the tall trees to the ground covers and all the different plants in between. And through doing this, we can create like a permanent food system. So in relation compared to like modern agriculture that cuts down all the trees and plows it all up, and then you have all this amazing soil that is vulnerable to soil, to water and wind erosion. In a food forest, all the roots are in the ground, and the rain that falls hits all the leaves and it goes down the stem, and then it's held into the soil. And the leaf litter falls and it helps us to build soil. So we're capturing all the energy that's coming into the system and holding it there. So the learning opportunities, we see it's very much about the relationships between all the different plants and how the different plants can support each other. Like we'll have mineral accumulators, plants with deep tap roots that are accumulating the minerals in the soil to feed the trees, or plants to attract beneficial insects that will predate on the pest insects. We have plants that are in the soil to have fungicide properties, like around our apple trees, we might have horseradish and garlic that will help repel things like brown rot or fungal diseases. So yeah, it's all about looking at the different interconnections. So yeah, there's a lot of learning opportunities when we look at the modern agricultural system of monoculture and herbicides and pesticides compared to a diverse whole system where all the different elements within that system are looking after each other and have multiple functions. And in the case of a food forest, we're growing plants that feed us, that are medicinal herbs and plants, fibers and dyes, all these things that are useful to us, but we can create this diverse ecosystem. And most importantly, understanding the amazing rhizosphere, the soil life, and the incredible diversity and complexity of this, and how we can support it by composting, by allowing all that organic matter to fall to the ground and to break down, and knowing that all the roots of the trees are exuding these sugars that the bacteria and the fungi are feeding off, and in relation they have a beneficial relationship, and these are helping to break down plant matter. So yeah, there's heaps of learning opportunities. Yeah. And what for the future? Well, there's so much. Not only are you stabilizing, you've got a resilient system that's producing food, you're stabilizing the land so you're not getting erosion. We're building the soil, which is sequestering carbon and putting it into our land, which is super important. Yeah, there's so many
things. Kia ora, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you, Roz. Just bouncing off that, then you sort of touched on the carbon at the end there. So I'm just going to bounce off to Helen now to share some of your thoughts on this question, Helen.
Thanks. Yeah, Roz, it's so inspiring. I love hearing you speak. It's great. Kia ora koutou, ko toku ingoa Helen Tulit. Yeah, so I am the community carbon coach in Littleton, a really new role and lots of things to explore there. So I'm going to start with some of the learning opportunities for us at the Littleton Community Gardens. We are really focusing, we have a bit of a food forest that's establishing, so there's a lot of learning around those interconnected systems as well. We really hope to bring people in and learn about the carbon cycle in general, like you touched on, nutrient cycling, and helping people just to understand how they can reduce their carbon footprint through growing their own food. Closing in those food miles, buying locally, growing their own food if they can. Sometimes it's tricky in Littleton because of the sunshine hours at the moment getting down there for us, but community gardens is really well located. And of course, food waste, really big thing in our society. I think the learning opportunities, that's a really big thing that we see is, especially my work with households, going into people's families and learning, when we work 40 hours a week, that ability to make nourishing meals for ourselves is the thing that becomes compromised. And yeah, what I'm noticing is there's a real opportunity there around food waste, and even coming back further than that into providing some cooking classes for kids after school so that they can start to learn about nutrient dense food options for them. And we have a wonderful harbour co-op which sells whole foods. You can take your own bags. So again, I think for us it's trying to tie in those local food networks to the community gardens and bring people's awareness to how they can then support a local economy through that. So, and then their own local, their own well-being and health individually.
Beautiful. Thanks for that, Helen. So I'll just bounce straight on to Zane there. What are your thoughts about this, Zane?
Yes, so obviously you said earlier I do edible streets and also volunteer at Smith Street. So the whole idea with edible streets was to create something people can engage with and learn from that's easily accessible by people walking by, and hoping that people could copy and anyone could set up on their street. I just did a garden, a street pantry, the seedling swap, there's a little greenhouse, and seed cabinet so people can interact and share their excess. And then I also made an information board with links to my Pinterest with different gardening categories, couple of monthly garden guides for New Zealand, and some gardening books on organic and permaculture gardening. And then with Smith Street, working on the nursery there because I really would like to set up a permaculture nursery doing fruit trees, veggies, beneficials and herbs and everything. At the moment, we just got the veggies going, and I got a little bit of the tree nursery at home because it takes a lot of work to get all these systems going. And then we also have allotments. There's a foraging zone and the urban farm to make affordable veggies for the local community while also educating people and hopefully training future urban farmers that would be able to go into the red zone. So that would be the future expansion. And then the foraging area also creates all the biodiversity that supports the market garden, and then the allotments brings in biodiversity of people. So we're all sort of learning from each other, with each other. And then yeah, with the nursery and everything we're doing, just learning as we go.
Awesome. I love that. A very kind of leveling approach. And I'm thinking this is what you do on top of your full-time job. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gardening mad.
Have you got enough to do? I'm not sure. Thank you so much, Zane. Chessa, what's your thought on this? You're kind of been working, and maybe, yeah, sort of coming back to Zane's thing there about we're all learning together. How does that translate into your work when you're working with, you know, kind of in that more formal curriculum end of things sometimes?
Kia ora, ko Chessa toku ingoa. Nice to see everyone. So I work directly with teachers and educators, and having come from being a teacher myself, sort of understand the constraints of what our education system allows teachers to do, what the time it provides teachers, the resources it provides teachers, etc. And following on from the work that Matt did with Edible Canterbury and the Food Resilience Network years ago, we still offer the school gardening hui to educators 2 times a year in term 1 and term 4. And what we do for that is have people like yourselves who are experts in their fields and in the local gardening industry provide workshops for teachers to be able to come along to. There's so many teachers working effortlessly, tirelessly in this space to provide gardening opportunities and gardening education for the students across Christchurch, just off of their own passion and their own interest. And so they come to us to be able to get more support and education to be able to then take back to their students. So it's totally a privilege to be able to offer that, the workshops to them a couple of times a year. We also have a new directory or resource on the Edible Canterbury webpage. There's the new educators directory where we have pulled together lots of different local service providers, local education resources, local experts. I've noticed Anita Croft is here on this call. She's one of the service providers who is listed in our webpage with her education resource and the service that she provides for early childhood centers. But experts like herself and other people here and the things that they do as their daily work and their daily business for teachers to be able to use it as a portal to be able to link to and have everything just like at the click of their mouse. And it's up and live on the Edible Canterbury webpage and is a very workable space. So like if more people want to be added to it, they can be as time goes on. We also have a Facebook group that's quite active with almost 200 educators from the region around that we post current, regular, updated, lots of professional development from the area, lots of links to community gardens if there are events going on. We'd love to be able to put in the Smith Street and the Edible Street workshops. We put, things are coming up at local community gardens, and I follow a lot of the things that are happening in and around Christchurch event-wise. So we'll post them into the group for educators to be able to see and follow. So that's a lot of the work that I do in the role that I have with Edible Canterbury. Started talking about like innovation for the future. I'm just always looking to build relationships, essentially, is like to continue to build the network of communication that we have with everybody who offers amazing support and amazing opportunities, and allowing teachers and educators from preschool all the way through to high school the opportunities to be able to see what's out there for them to be able to access to support their practice, learn and grow, pardon the pun, but like to be able to enhance the practice and whatever it is that they're offering the students of their school and their community, of course, because the community is always linked when it comes to gardening. So that's what we're doing that's what I'm doing in my role, and alongside Roz with other work that she does for Edible Canterbury.
Awesome, thank you. It's so nice to hear about all of that work. There's some incredible resources coming out of the collaborations there. So congrats. And I just wondered whether, Chessa, do you want to take a minute just to explain what Food Resilience Network / Edible Canterbury is for people who might not be aware? Because you're talking
Sure.
about wanting to expand the network. Maybe this is an opportunity as well.
Right. So the Food Resilience Network is essentially like a holding space for everybody who works with an organization who is involved with gardening and providing services for people in Canterbury and Christchurch that are growing related, food related. We talk about, food resilience issues and garden educating. And we come together in order to discuss issues within this realm. We communicate a lot with people from the Community Gardens Association. We talk a lot with people from the Horticulture Society. There are a lot of conversations that happen and networking that happens that we deal a lot with the council, and just really taking issues to council and things that we need to address and things that we'd like to move forward in terms of actioning food resilience support in our region and in our area. And we're sort of like a voice, but also a place where people can come together and have their voices heard.
Excellent. Great answer. Thank you. And just to note that there's a message in the chat there from Cathy. Hi Cathy, who's saying, sounds amazing. We need you at Kids First Kindergarten, Phillipstown. All right, so there you go. Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for your answers. Just moving to the second question now, and I'm going to go to Zane for this one first. But the question is, can you just take a couple of minutes to share a story about a person who's been in your community, a learning experience that you've seen? Wait, let me ask the question as is written. A story about a person or people in your community's learning experience. So.
Yep, I can think of one off the top of my head. A family friend of mine, one of my wife's dad's friends, he started seeing what I was doing with my garden and would regularly pop over on his way home from work and ask what I was doing. And then, he's created an amazing, thriving garden. I just told him to Google lasagna gardening, and then next thing he was wanting to do his own seedlings and just made himself some little punnets on the window sill, and eventually that turned into a homemade he made himself a wee glass house out of old windows he got from building site because he's a builder. And and then making his own seaweed tea and compost, and he just would love to come home every day and spend half an hour in the garden before he would transition into home. It was his calm, happy place, and he couldn't believe how simple it was. He didn't have to buy anything.
Cool.
He was even using seeds out of all the veggies he got from the supermarket. He just went ham on doing everything himself.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's yeah, so really speaking to the power of a physical example in the community, isn't it? You know, somebody can see it and really experience it, and then suddenly the world opens. So
yeah, and I started learning from him because I was too busy doing so many things. I'm like, oh, it works. No, I better try and get onto sorting out my compost more. I'm too busy over here.
yeah. Brilliant. How about you, Helen? Have you got a story to share?
Yeah, so I'm quite new to the community. I just moved back from Quebec August last year. So the Littleton Community Gardens is a relatively new space for me. And I go every Wednesday morning to the working bee, and about a month ago, one of our aisles between the beds was just clear. You know, it used to be wood chips, and now it just suddenly was compost. It was evident that it had just transformed itself. And so Sue Ellen, who's the coordinator, said, well, you know, we're going to plant these purple sprouting broccoli, so let's get that out of the alley. And I thought, okay, sure. And I started digging, and of course we have lots of mums and children who come along, and we have wheelbarrows of all sizes, and we have shovels of all sizes. And suddenly we were just this team of, it was like ants. We were all just digging this alley, and you know, we have the geotextile underneath to stop the weeds technically from coming through. And yeah, it was all just cycled, you know, transformed. People wheelbarrowed it to the bed. And then we got this lovely wood chip, which we get delivered from a local arborist, the tree people. They come and dump all their chips for us to use. And so we then built up this alleyway again, you know, with a good foot of wood chip. And I guess two things came up for me that day. I was just like, the power of people working together, and also that nutrient cycling. You know, we can use these wood chips, they can slowly break down, and then they're the compost for our plants.
Yeah, that's such a great example. Yeah, it's such a great point, actually, that when, you know, well, I suppose it's the many hands make light work thing, isn't it? But it's amazing when you see it happening. Like, whoa, how much, you know, to learn through doing again, that actually it's true. You know, it's actually true. Can transform the world if everybody's doing it a little bit together. So yeah, nice story. How about you, Chessa?
So perfect. Just on the back of both Zane and Helen. So like Zane as a catalyst for his uncle, and Helen working with, you know, all sorts of different ages, but little humans too at the gardens. I have had the immense pleasure of working alongside the preschoolers at my daughter's preschool. So because of COVID, no schools have allowed us on their properties over the course of the last however many months. But because I'm a close contact and a parent, I've been able to continue last couple of years working with the teachers and the students at the New Brighton preschool. And they're just like an incredible crew of teachers and students who years ago sort of had a post on Facebook, and they sort of wanted some information about worm farming. And because I was passionate, I was teaching and I was passionate about worm farming at the time, and it was my local Facebook group, I sort of jumped on and gave them a whole bunch of information and instructions. And then now fast forward 4 years later, I'm actually there working with them. But they have adopted like a new philosophy for their preschool. They have recycling bins from the council that they didn't have before. They're now doing worm farming, bokashi, and composting They have reduced the amount of waste that they're creating. Their willingness to learn, like they've come along to the Hui on a couple of terms. They have more teachers involved. It just used to sort of be one teacher who was leading their things, and they have more teachers who are involved. They do their homework and their own research. So one of the things a lot of schools and a lot of teachers just want someone to come in and do the job for them, because they're just so stretched for time and they're so busy. But they've really taken it on board where I can give a suggestion or instruction, and then they take it upon themselves to do the work themselves. And I just think this is how it should be everywhere. Yeah, it's just really lovely working with them. But the kids are just enthralled with the bathtub worm farm, which is like based on the city council way of running a worm farm. And they all understand the difference between, like, you know, bokashi or bokashi. I'm not exactly sure how people say it here, but like that's fermentation, and the worm farm is vermicast, and that the composter is decomposition. And it's just really neat. Like when I'm dropping my daughter off at school in the morning, she's like, "Are you coming in to play with the worms today?" You know, like just super, they're all just super jazzed about everything that's going on. And it just really is us being able to be a catalyst to their learning and their newfound passion, to the point where the nursery, so like the 0 to 2s, they are now taking on things because they see what's happening in the 2 to 5 space. So it's just, yeah, it's all around just great and inspiring, and they're my story.
They are your story. Awesome.
They are my story. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Chessa. Roz, how about you? Can you think of a person or people in your projects you'd like to share a story of?
Yeah, well, there was two things that came. I just said my internet connection is unstable, so hopefully I'm okay. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah, so there was two things that came to mind when I read that, and one quick one is just because we're right in the city centre, and the amount of people I come through that walk through, that live nearby, or that work in all the office buildings. So many people come through just saying, "Oh, this is so good for their well-being. It's their special place. They love to walk through it every day. It gives them hope." Like I get so many comments like that all the time. And that's always really amazing, just to understand, you know, having these natural environments full of diversity and insects and flowers is so good for people, you know, for their well-being, for them to come and have a break or whatever. That's one real special thing that always touches me a lot. But yeah, one of the coolest things I think we used to, or when the schools were visiting, we were having Christchurch East School, primary school, come visit and do like learning workshops, or quite often. And I was doing, you know, pollinating and seed saving workshop with them. And part of it, they were doing like a scavenger hunt, picking as many diverse flowers as possible. And we got heaps of diverse. So the kids were loving it, just all these different flowers. And then we're talking about seed saving and the importance of this. And we had lots of seeds that we'd collected and had. And the kids were all just so excited about taking them home, like they were gold. And you know, it was like the best toy for these kids, or the best sweets. And can I have a seed? And they're all making these wee packages, and just the joy and everything about like these seeds. They're such precious things, which they are. And it's so cool to teach our kids these seeds are so precious. We need to look after them. We need to share them. We need to keep those cycles, especially the heritage seeds, going. But the kids are just like, yeah, they were so into it and so taken with it. And they all went away with their little package of seeds, their little bouquets of flowers. Oh, and they were loving it. So that was cool. That was my real specialist thing, I think.
That's so nice. And, you know, that'll be a memorable moment that could completely change their life forever, you know. So,
yeah,
definitely. So
and especially if they do go home and sow them, and then they're like, oh, wow, then it grows a plant that gives a whole lot more seed. And this is the abundance and generosity of nature, which is so beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. All right, thank you all. Now, jumping on to the third question, which I'm going to throw to Zane first. This one is very simple. It's not even really a question. It's just your top learning, your top take-home learning from the work that you've been doing? Yeah, what do you reckon, Zane?
I know it takes a community to make it happen. We've all got different strengths and weaknesses, and you can't do it on your own. And I stubbornly tried, because first I didn't have funding and volunteers, and everyone else was busy, and I'm like, I'm just gonna make this happen, and I burned out, and things worked out in the end, and I'm working full time and busier than I thought I'd be. But now George is at Smith Street, and I'm helping there, and through all of our different people, and Tilly is doing the mushrooms there, and there's a diversity of us making it happen together instead of trying to carry that burden myself.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for saying that. And also, yeah, hi, George. Also, hi, George's dog. That was really beautiful before. So yeah, good lesson, Zane. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's yeah, so true. How about you, Helen? You've had lots of experience with different kinds of community projects. Yeah, what would you say your top learning from those has been?
Yeah, I think it comes back to community again. I really resonate with Zane, and I think, you know, community, it really takes time and trust and relationships and fun and repetition, and then just doing it all again, really. And I think also something that I come up against, or that is coming up for me this year in this role, is remembering to really focus in on, you know, like, I know a lot about carbon, but I don't often use the word. So for me, it's actually just about, because it's in my head and I tell that story every day, but actually making it really clear for people that food is linked to carbon, and how you get to work is linked to carbon, and how you heat your house is linked to our carbon footprint, and where you shop, you know, all the decisions we make. So yeah, I think I might, you know, it's that whole idea that I really want something and I want to see change, but actually I feel this urgency, and so for me, like, patience, you know, just having that patience of knowing that relationships and building relationships are really key and foundational for me. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So people again.
Yeah, people, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chessa, I'm gonna come to you now on this. Your top learning.
Well, Zane, you said community, and it's huge. And Helen, I've written down time, trust, repetition, and fun, because they are just everything you need to take to teachers and students all the time. My working in this space, my biggest takeaways is that every single school is different. Each preschool is different to the next. Every primary school is different to the next. As diverse as all our children are, and we are all from each other, every school and education providing place is different to each other. So what we provide to them can't be cookie cutter, and we can't expect to just have like the same. There are so many enthusiastic, dedicated, and willing teachers out there doing the work and wanting to do the work. And it's such an honor for us to be able to provide learning opportunities for them, to be able to support them, and understanding what their needs are is just an incredible piece of what we do. And just giving them the time and giving them what they need is on repeat is really important. And just to keep doing what we're doing. And that we're all here. Like, my biggest thing is just that my dream is just to be able to mobilize as much support as we possibly can for educators, because they can get quite insular and quite siloed in the work that they're doing in their school, because they have so many different people and so many different students that they are responsible to every day, that like that's just what they see and that's where their hearts are. And that if we can provide the support through people and through communication and through just as much education as we can, then we'll get to where we need to be. We can, you know, go places together.
Yeah, thank you. Just before I go to Roz, we're going to wrap up in a minute, but just remember, if anybody has a burning question that they'd like to ask, please feel free to drop it into the chat box. Yeah, but anyway, Roz, what would you say your top learning from this work has been for you?
My top learning from this work, definitely like working with community is one thing, but also my learning in the realm of what is unseen, what is in the soil, like the soil community and how important that is and how much hope it can give us, because like you hear a lot about we're losing all our topsoil and erosion and all these things, losing water, but actually we can reverse all of that, and we can grow soil, we can sequester carbon, and just understanding the soil life and the amazing diversity of what's underneath the soil and how we are all interconnected. Everything is interconnected, and yeah, just this learning is quite incredible. Mycelium connections between the trees, and yeah, there's a lot of similarities between what happens under the soil, what happens above the soil, and understanding all those, and to create really you know, rich, diverse systems, both underneath and above ground.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Roz.
And it's becoming added. Yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
I said, oh yeah, no, it's just because as technology becomes more and more sophisticated, we're understanding more and more about what's happening under the soil and how these bacteria are actually immune defenses for our plants, just like the bacteria in our gut is our immune defense, things like this. I mean, it's so interconnected. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Beautiful. All right, well, thank you, Roz, and thanks everybody. There is just another question there from Cathy. So basically, how do I get in touch with someone to help us at Kindy with says your community garden? Can you drop your email into the chat there too, please, Chessa? And hopefully Cathy, you can see the chat and grab Chessa's email out of there, chessa@ediblecanterbury.org.nz. Yeah, cool. All right. Well, it's bang on 6:20, which is when we said that we would wrap up this session. So this, I mean, it's obviously scratching the tip of the did you say the tip? Yeah, the tip of the iceberg, scratching the tip of I don't know, I'm mixing metaphors, but it's just so lovely to see you all here. Thank you so much for turning up tonight, and particularly to our 4 great panelists. I know that there's everybody in this room is doing great work, and I think we could probably run another 4 or 5 panels with everybody else that's in this room, because there's so much collective knowledge. I'm not sure if there are any other opportunities coming up within this space to get together, gather, share thoughts and ideas. Chessa, I know that you've been running Food Resilience Network Hui. I'm not sure if there are any more sort of in the pipeline, but if there are, feel free to just say so now. If there's not, then grab that email address, and I'm sure Chessa will let you know. Oh, Chessa, look through the educators directory. We'll have an event on next month. Thank you. Brilliant. So, and the best way, maybe, will that be on the Facebook page? Chessa, you can speak with words if you like, if it's easier. Okay, yes. So Edible Canterbury Facebook page. I know I'm kind of really pushing the Equitable Canterbury thing at the moment, but there's so many great organisations out there. But Equitable Canterbury is one that seeks to join the dots, or join the mycorrhizal connections, and so yeah. Look, once again, thank you so much, and I particularly want to thank Vic as well for all of the hard work on the behind the scenes of pulling this session together, but also all of the work on the Learning Days Festival. It's a wonderful thing. It's so great that this is happening in our city, and with that, I'd love to wish you all a beautiful night, have good sleep, and prepare for another day of growing community connections and growing food. Ka kite anō.